Good afternoon, classmates of EdAd 890. This is my final research video. I'm sorry I cannot present it to you in person, but I'll be flying out to New Mexico for a teaching conference tomorrow, so I wanted to make sure I had this all the way completed. For our research paper in this class, I looked at a lot of different options of things that were of interest to me and things that affected my daily teaching or future admin career at a high school. And one of the key things that I wanted to focus on was the issue of tardies. In every high school, middle school, tardies are a big time issue when it comes to student behavior and student performance in the classroom. My specific research purpose looked at, does the length of passing periods affect the overall number of students who are tardy? Wanted to specifically look at how much time would be needed, and if that was reduced, would that have a positive impact, reducing student tardy numbers as a solution to something that is a major problem in the high school. Now, why did I choose to conduct this research study? Well, first off, my job in the current or the previous school year was that of an administrative intern. And my main focus was on tardies and behavioral consequences for those tardies. For the course of the year, I went and ran reports on what students were tardy, went, gave them said consequences. But we found out that the tardies weren't really going away. In fact, the numbers were actually getting higher. It didn't matter what behavior, punishments, or consequences, or what rules we created. The perpetually tardy students were always perpetually tardy. The students that weren't tardy too much but still had 1, 2, or 3, regardless of the consequence, they always ended up with 1, 2, or 3. It got a little frustrating as the year went on. The fact that I kept giving the same punishment to the same student and nothing was changing. So that was kind of in the back of my mind. Is there another way to go about tardies? Is there another way that we can address tardies that, number one, don't take a lot of prep work ahead of time, and number two, could have some real meaningful impact on the students at Millard North High School? Now, there have been a lot of studies done on different ways to handle tardies in the classroom. And a lot of these have been very successful. I looked at 3 specifically in my literature review that I posted on the paper. One of them was a very common one that I think a lot of schools do, and it's a form of a hall sweep setup. Author by the name of Randy Sprick, who wrote it in Middle Ground, an educational newspaper, came up with this idea of hall sweeps in kind of a whole school-wide movement to sweep the halls and to move all students who are tardy each period into a common room. So that way, after every class period, students were receiving a consequence. Now, this was very effective in the school, reduced tardies drastically. Unfortunately, though, that took a lot of manpower. Teachers were being called out of their plan period, pulled out of their even beginning parts of their class period to help sweep and shoo the students to a particular room. Once all the students got to that room, they were essentially all in one place, and to process that amount of tardies took anywhere from 5 minutes at the absolute minimum, all the way up to, as the article describes, 30 minutes to process all those students. So now you've taken students that are already tardy, and now you have them waiting and missing 30 more minutes of class. So not the best solution. Another example was something that happened in Washington State, and they went with behavior intervention ahead of time. They saw a drastic reduction, 67% in their amount of tardies. Very difficult system to implement, though. Would take a lot of manpower and time, and it's a system that we've essentially kind of already created with some interventions, and it hasn't had the effect that we want at Millard North High School. A really interesting solution that I liked was a study done by the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse with La Crosse Public Schools. They actually had the students sit down and create tardy policies, and they found that the students were more apt to follow those policies when they created them. But that requires a whole culture shift, and something that might not be as easy at Millard North High School. And also That's not a simple thing to do. So my proposed study was much simpler. In the previous school year, our passing period was 7 minutes. Now, I don't want to lengthen that passing period because I don't want to remove time from instructional time. But what if we shortened it? What if we shortened it to 5 minutes? What if we reduced the amount of time that students had to move around the school? Would they be more apt to make a beeline to their next class? Because right now, students go pick up snacks. They go to different ends of the building. Why? Because they have the time to do so. What if we were to streamline that? What I would like to do is have a pilot year where we conduct this study. Take the data from last year, the 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, and implement this 5-minute change this year, testing them now 1 year later as 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. Taking the exact same students, but changing the tardy time period to 5 minutes. Would the tardies reduce? Would they stay the same? Would, because of the shorter time period, would they go up? The positives of this proposed study are that it's very cost effective, doesn't take considerable amount of work, and is something that we can honestly implement. We've tried at Millard North High School various other tardy ideas, and it seems to have very little effect. I think this is something teachers could get behind as well, because it would not require a drastic shift. Some negatives, we don't know if this is going to work. It's simply a possibility. It could have a very disastrous effect of even more students becoming tardy. But the shorter time period could create a different mindset in the students. And this would be something that would be beneficial to look at. This would be a quantitative study looking solely at tardy numbers run through our school grading and attendance program of Infinite Campus. The tardy numbers from the previous year would be judged by the tardy numbers of the current 2016-2017 year. And my hope, and the hope of this proposed study, is even this simple little change in school policy, without all the bigger solutions that require significant more time and resources, with just a small change, a reduction in time, we can reduce the number of tardies and create meaningful change at our school, and in the long run, help students' performance in the classroom and ultimately get them towards their path to being college and career ready. Thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to your comments.